Hello, fortune seekers. We went, we saw, we unplugged. PAX Unplugged, that is. Now it's time for a debriefing. From wild booths to wild bills, we will lay out our weekend of fun and games. That and so much more on this episode of the Moth Studios Super Secret Podcast. Shh, 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 shh. No talking in the game library. Welcome back. I'm your host, recent inductee into the cult of Drew, Joel Watts. And as always, I'm joined by...
Danny. I am also back, and surprised you didn't introduce yourself as an edgelord, but I'm okay with that.
Yes, well, I don't want to steal edgelord valor, and, I'm not as up-to-date on my atheism.
What is edgelord
Valor? I don't know, being a commenter, just like raining on everybody's parade in the comments. Yeah, that's hard work. You really have to work hard to make everybody's life a little bit more miserable with, pointing out how nothing is magical and everything sucks. And that's
you make it look so effortless.
Valor. Let's get started with a question of the week. And Danny, I have one for you this week. One that
sure
is very important. In fact, let me go grab a quick prop. I'll be right back.
Oh, great. A prop break.
PAX
Ooh, that's a Wild Bills mug.
Wild Bills. I'm not
Very
sure exactly what their
battle-worn.
involvement is, but already. It's one conference, and look at the scuffs it's already gotten. We wore this on the back of our backpacks, so hung them off, so I think we got some battle damage. But you know what? That's what these mugs are made for, to have history, to tell a story. But we got our Wild Bill mugs. We tasted the Wild Bills. Danny, what was your favorite flavor of Wild Bill soda?
Ooh. So let's see. Which ones did I try? I tried wild cherry. Or is it black cherry?
I think it
the
was
cherry
black
flavor.
cherry. I think it was black.
Black cherry.
Yeah.
And then I tried the ginger ale, and I tried the vanilla cream. And the only one I went back for was the vanilla cream because that was my favorite. I love cream soda. This was a very good one. No knock against the cherry. No knock against the ginger ale. And there were a few other flavors that I would have liked to try if I was willing to brave those lines a little bit more often. But we barely had any time, and it always seemed like it was borderline irresponsible given how tight our schedule was to spend 15 minutes waiting for a refill on the soda. Boy, was it delicious.
For sure. Very delicious. And the lines are there for good reason. It is more often than not worth waiting those 5 to 10 minute lines in order to get a taste of that Wild Bill soda. But I would say, so you went with vanilla cream, great flavor. I got to try that one. I also tried the black cherry, but my favorite flavor that I found right at the end was strawberry cream. That was delicious.
What was that like?
I just lived up to the name. It tastes like a creamy strawberry delight, which is something that I usually go for in my smoothies as well. So I'm not nearly as healthy, I'm sure, good for me as my smoothies. But you know what? When you're walking that much on the convention floor, I'm not usually a soda person. I worry about excess sugar. So I try to avoid sugary sodas and even diet sodas or, the new Coke Zero style sodas aren't, I try to keep those at bay. But when you're walking the convention floor the way that we were, you're going to need it. Those calories burn off instantly. They basically hit your stomach and just instantly evaporate. So,
oh yeah,
so it's
for sure.
definitely
I felt like during that whole entire time, I was like, I don't really want to drink a full calorie soda right now. But at the same time, we're not eating lunch today, so I need something to keep me going.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we're both Apple Watch wearers. I know, I think day one, without even trying, I hit my exercise ring, I hit my calorie ring, everything. So yeah, if you're going to the convention, unless you're if you're planning on seeing everything there is to see, expect it to be a day of working out and try to bring some snacks.
Absolutely, it was a giant convention and filled wall to wall with things to do, people to see. I was quite frankly overwhelmed by the amount of things that there were to experience. And I feel like even though we were there from opening to closing Friday and Saturday, and up until we had to catch our plane at 3:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, I feel like we got to see only a fraction of what we wanted to.
Yeah.
I could have easily spent another 2 full days there, and I'm still not sure we would have got everything we wanted done.
Oh yeah. There were so many
It
booths
was
that we
crazy.
walked past that I would really have loved to stop and interview the folks, but you're just having to choose your spots. Interviewing the game makers was really great. In fact, maybe Danny, we should start this out by like kind of laying out what we did, what Megamoth Studios did Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So why don't we just start with Friday and kind of work our way through the weekend?
Okay, but before we do that, just one more thing I
Yeah.
want to say
Oh
because we
yeah.
missed something on our
Yes.
what to pack for PAX list, which had
Ooh.
I known from experience, I would have added to that list and will absolutely include on all lists going forward. You may want to consider bringing your own toilet paper because it is not a guarantee that you are going to find any toilet paper while you're at the convention because that stuff flies off the roll.
Yeah.
Just
Those convention workers can only they can only keep up so much, and they're dealing with. I mean, it was estimated what we were talking like 30 to 40,000 people easily roaming the convention hall.
that was the
convention
estimate I
floor.
heard was over 30,000, and that was before we got there. I think that was based on past attendance numbers and based on the conversations that we had there. It seems like this one may have even been busier than past years. I
Yeah.
mean, it definitely felt like it was full to the gills. Even Sunday, where things had maybe slightly, leveled off, still just full of people. You wouldn't feel like you were at an under-attended event. You know, had I not been there Friday and Saturday and just showed up Sunday, I would assume that it was that busy the whole weekend, and it somehow was busier on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was the amount of people there with the 3 day passes, the amount of exhibitors, the amount of content creators just all out there. I mean, we often were looking for, and we'll get into this when we talk about what we did Saturday, but a few times we had to go to the free play area to try to demo somebody's game, and finding a spot at tables that are these tables just go on forever. You think you could sit like easily 24 people, and there's dozens upon dozens. I mean, nearly hundreds of these tables, and yet you still have to fight for your spots to sit, especially if you need to sit like four people next to each other.
Oh, 100%. There was well over 1,000 seats available, I would say. I mean, because like you said, like you could probably get at least 24 people per long table, maybe more. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if there were 3,000 seats available, and
Yeah.
finding an open seat was a challenge.
And this was just in the free play zone. That doesn't count. There was the TCG, I guess, tournament zone, which also was just packed full of tables. And that was just constantly going. I don't think we really spent much time around there, but based on the schedule, it was a constant, like one tournament after another after another. We're not talking about the eating zone, the places where people could sit down and eat, like the circular tables. And we're not even, and that's not even counting the exhibitor area where people were selling games at booths. I mean, that just, it was a sea of
Here's
people. But go ahead.
Yeah. Here's a good example to illustrate what it was like. We set up on day 2 at a table, and we were there. We were getting ready to go. We had been there for hours, and a gentleman comes up to us, and he's got a couple people with him, and they're sitting on the floor against the wall. And they're like, "Hey, are you guys getting up? Because if so, we would really like this table space." And we're like, "Sure, no problem. We'll pack up, and you can have it." In the time that we packed up, so like in the 2 to 3 minutes it took us to pack up so that these people could take the table, 2 other groups asked us for the space.
They were like hawking us, or what is that term? They were like
It was
vultures,
it was
like
definitely
circling.
like vultures.
Yeah, I hadn't even realized, and we did take up a good amount of space, but we definitely utilized that. So maybe we should talk about Saturday morning, which is the big shouldn't even say Saturday morning. Saturday throughout the day was our big X Secrets of Fortune playtest day where we found table at this free space early, set up, and, sort of like invited people over. We had some scheduled play test. And people who wandered by, we would ask them if they wanted to play test. But also not only our game, but we also were able to play test 2 or 3 other games in our zone. And the friends that we made along the way really appreciated that we had sort of staked a claim of this like table space so that they could easily get in and sit and pull out their game and show it off, which I think was, so pro tip, if you're in the game, if you're a game designer and you're, looking to meet some new people and play multiple games, arrive early, stake a claim at a table, and, kind of like, literally, hold it down.
Yeah, absolutely. We probably got a space for maybe 10 people, and we had set up our game there, and then that space filled up with all of our friends and acquaintances, and we just sat there and played games for hours. And whoever needed the space for their play test, they were able to have at it. And that was one of my favorite things about this weekend. We got to play a number of very cool games. We got to play Marsh Hollow by Curvin,
Yeah,
Kalisa.
four
We got
white,
to
yeah, 4 white
have,
games.
we got to try Travis Kurth's Pantheon. Is that correct? His new game that's also heading towards Kickstarter. Very cool
Yeah.
game, sort of based on ancient Greek mythology.
And
And
made by a very cool guy, Trevor, right?
Trevor,
Yeah, Trevor
Trevor
was,
Kurth.
yeah, he
Archwood
was just
Games.
Archwood Games. He was just so fun to have around. We had briefly talked to him through our connection with Launch Boom leading up to the convention. But once we got to meet him, I felt like we were, instant friends. He was just great to have around, very like-minded game designer. And his game, Pantheon, I didn't get to try it myself, but what he pitched to me sounded really exciting. And it has like a mechanic that I'm really happy that he's incorporating, which is basically oh wait, what's my cat doing? But basically, in order to create like infinite possibilities of games, his mechanic is that the codenames board situation where you get your own personal objective of how you need to make the map look. And so based on what you get and what everybody else has, the game is going to be different. There's so many variables that can change how the game plays. I think it's going to be a game that you could put many plays into.
Absolutely, it was great. During my game, I got to play it with Kia from Nomadic Games and Bowser, who's a great content creator, and they had a great time, and it was right up their alley. I enjoyed it. It was very flavorful, and it's always fun to get to see a game that's in development. Also from our Launch Boom cohort was Chris and Rose with their new word game Cubel, I believe it's pronounced.
Yeah.
And that is sort of a cross between Rummy Cube and Scrabble, I think was how it was described. But I had a lot of fun. It was definitely a game that and Marsh Hollow, I was disappointed I couldn't immediately take home and just play. Pantheon was great, but those two games were ones that I knew I could immediately get people in my vicinity to play with me repeatedly at home because they
Oh,
were, yeah.
I was just going to say Cubel was. I mean, you're a father, and I was just imagining, that would be a great game to play with your son. It's a word game that can scale in complexity. So if you needed to use it as a way of teaching him more vocabulary, and rewarding him for that, you could. But you could scale that game up to, like we were saying, like, almost calling it like, grade school, secondary school, like grad school, kind of that sort of scale, because depending on how many letters you have to, kick off the game by completing the highest letter word that you can. I think it was 6 in
It
our
has
play
to be a
test.
minimum of 6.
Yeah, but I was talking to Chris, and I was like, well, if you want to go higher than that at tournaments, make it 7, 8 letter words that people are having to kick off the game with, if they really want to make it a challenge. And the thing I thought about that game was, it felt like Scrabble for me, it felt like, a game like Scrabble with all the unnecessary parts wiped away, and it just being straight wordplay, word game. It's almost like the least. I don't want to use the word. I'm trying to think of. I don't want to use the word pretentious. It's not that. It's like the least complicated, the most elegant. I guess I'll just say the most elegant version of a word game I've seen since maybe Bananagrams.
Oh, okay. I haven't
Yeah.
played Bananagrams, but I like bananas.
I think you'd like, if you like bananas, you'd like the packaging. It comes in a little sack that's shaped like a banana and has all the tiles inside.
I enjoy a good banana sack.
Speaking of sacks, no, I don't think there's a transition there. We also,
Thank
like you
God.
said, we also played Marsh Hollow, which was my second time playing it. I think your second time as well, but it had gone through
Yeah.
some. We played it in an earlier play test, and it had definitely gone through some revisions, some iterations that I think had honed the game quite a bit.
Yep, absolutely. It was very enjoyable. I think that was the consensus with everyone who played it. We also play tested Salty Scurvy Sea Dogs from
What
Alex
what a
Farsick.
name! You gotta love
Yeah,
that name, Salty
and
Scurvy
the art
Sea
was super
Dogs.
cute.
Yes.
I really liked it. I mean, and this is what I told Alex after we played it, but I felt like it was similar to X Seekers and Fortune in that you could pick it up extremely quickly, but there was so much depth there that was accessible to people who crave more strategic gameplay, but
Yeah.
you did not have to engage with that strategy to play the game, to enjoy the game. The game really meets you at your level, and that's exactly what I love to see because you want to have a game on yourself that you can pull out and play with your casual friends, but also have something that you can pull out and play with your friends that are a little bit more of a shark and know that you're going to have fun with both groups of people, even if sort of, the intensity of gameplay may vary a little bit. I really liked it. I felt like it was just that perfect amount of, okay, I can strategize. I can think ahead a couple turns. I can try to determine what my game plan is. I can determine what my opponent's game plan is, and try to foil it. It was great.
Oh,
And
you
that is
definitely
one
did
that
some
I'm
foiling,
also.
Danny.
Yeah, I did. I did.
I
I definitely did, and I couldn't be happier. Any game really where I can foil Joel repeatedly sounds like an instant classic to me. So
Yeah, I think we learned something because we haven't. This is like our first time like sitting down to play test other folks' games together, like in this scenario. This is one of our first times doing that, and I've now discovered that Danny, you were really taking the idea of being my rival to heart.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I have a moral obligation to be your rival. X Seekers of Fortune, you have to have a main rival, obviously, and I would say Joel is currently my main rival.
Yeah, well, I can't
So
wait to see how that extends to the next time we get together for Commander or something like that. But
that's a
no,
very handsome shirt you have on, by the way.
oh yes, we got
Yeah.
these.
What is that? Is that a Megamouth shirt?
That is a Mega Moth
Dang,
shirt.
that
We
looks
got
good.
these made
With that
for
Bobon art?
PAX.
Ooh,
Yeah, Slobodon did our artwork of the logo on this
it
go
looks
around,
fantastic. Look at those
and
M's.
the M for Mega Moth. Great texture. Like I like if you look at my profile or avatar picture on social media, it's actually me standing in front of, or I superimpose myself over like a close up of the logo, and it just like works as a really great background. It just looks like a nice texture and brushstroke behind me. So it's really great to be able to go to a convention and like stand next to you, Danny, my creative partner, my business partner, and represent our brand. And we had not only this, but we also had the X Seekers of Fortune shirt. If you've seen the emblem logo, that's on it. It's black and white as well. We really do enjoy the black and white color palette. It kind of never goes wrong.
So I
So
think there
yeah,
was one other game we play tested that I think we
yeah.
should mention, which was
Oh yeah.
Kia's game at Nomadic Games, Dynasty, I think it's called.
Yes.
And
Last but not least, Dynasty, which I think was a really
certainly not
special play
least.
test. Yeah, certainly. Very special play test for the two of us. What did you
Yeah.
think of the game? How would you describe it?
So for me, I mean, again, there are, always, a lot of comparisons to make to games, but the way I saw this was it was a combination of Risk, Civilization, and Magic the Gathering. And I think, I have not personally played Settlers of Catan, which I don't know how that makes the audience feel. but from your descriptions, there are also Catan elements to it. I interpreted those more as like civilization elements, but in any case, I found the game to be extremely engaging, very, very original, and one that I really want to see how it develops, because I think it has the potential to turn into an all-time classic, and just really excited to engage with Kia's work there, and her imagination and her commitment to kind of share a story with the world. I think that frankly isn't well shared, and that's the story of African tribal culture. In the game, you play as one of 6 different tribes,
Real
and
tribes
through
with real
real
historical
tribes,
figures. Yeah.
100%. And so you might play as the Zulu or Bushman or the Maasai, and and as you're playing, the goal of the game is for you to learn a little bit about it. And I found that to be really exciting. I honestly found myself on Amazon last night looking at different books of Africa's history, just because it kind of sparked that interest in me to say, hey, I want to dig a little deeper, because really, when you think about it, African history, pre-colonial African history, very similar to pre-colonial American history, is very, very under talked about, and super fascinating. And that there's a rich history there. And how could there not be? I mean, it's the cradle of civilization. I mean, maybe civilization started in Mesopotamia, but the species, grew up on the savannas in Africa, and we've been there since. As long as there were people in Africa. So,
Yeah. And
very,
that's
very, very interesting history there.
Yeah, and that's what I love in a game, especially like, a game with good mechanics is, that's always a plus, and that's always really what I'm here for, is like the gameplay. But then when you add that texture and that inventiveness of teaching you something, I think a game should teach you something that you can take into the real world, whether it be history in this situation, or like planning, tactics, things like that, or possibly like with a lot of these cooking games, or games about like, kind of the service industry, food and beverage. If you walk away from a game and you understand exactly how to make a old fashioned, that's a benefit. And I think this game has a wealth of unexplored territory, or not, I shouldn't say unexplored, might be underutilized, underrepresented territory, with the African theme, the African history. I was really excited about that. It also felt like it was going to be playing really well. This was a very early prototype, though, so we were still, managing, there were pieces like very much like Catan, where you get your resources in like little wooden pieces, and we were just having to be like, okay, do we have enough of the like the stone or the wood to go around, because it's just very early on. But those are the early questions that you want to get answered, especially as you're looking forward to manufacturing. And I think she has a lot of opportunities to manufacture a great product, and she already has invested in art. Her art looks wonderful, and I think as long as she's carrying that forward, no matter how it's presented, no matter how it's packaged, that art is going to be the core of this game, and it's already looking sharp. It's already looking great. So it's only up from here for Kia.
There's another playtest I just remembered that we did.
Oh
Why
yeah,
don't you tell us a little bit about Seppi's Conquest Princess?
yes, Seppi. Oh man. Talk about, okay, so all these other playtests we did in the free play zone. We did like, with people all around us, and just like having to like lean over and be like, huh, what was that? Because of the masses of people and noise. Seppi was set up right. He was in a booth, but in a secret booth, like with curtain and everything. So that was just wonderful.
Shout out
being
to
able,
Card
and
Titan for
it was
providing
almost
that
like
booth.
it was like one of the first things we did on Friday, I believe, right? So it was almost like spoiling us. We didn't realize how good we had it, because we hadn't gone through the other woes of like finding table space and having to deal with the noise and the people and the traffic. So we pearls before swine, if you will. We walk into the booth, and it is so well set up in there. And Seppi, I mean, we might as well call him senpai, because we need to learn how to demo a game the way SEPI demos a game. It was so exciting. The narrative that he built throughout the playtest was so engaging, kept me in. It felt like I was role playing at a certain point. He was painting the picture so well that I was becoming my character. And I don't think you always get that in board games, where you actually feel like you're taking on your characteristics. And it was so it's called, what is it called? Conquest Princess.
Conquest Princess. Yeah.
It's like a science fiction Saturday morning cartoon style game. I think like if you were a fan of Powerpuff Girls, there's probably a lot of overlap with the feel. But you're princesses on a spaceship, the Tiara. Don't ask me what that's an acronym for. I forgot. It was the important part was the acronym. It's spelled out Tiara.
Yes. It was extremely campy game and in the best possible way. Question for you, Joel.
Yeah.
Fashion is
power.
Fashion is power.
Fashion is power.
Fashion is power.
Yeah, and it's like you're having to defend your spaceship from an invading force of, like being boarded by pirates, whilst you're also defending a world that is being set upon and almost, I think he even described it as space invaders, like, these invading forces getting closer to a planet. So you're kind of having to both fight a battle on the ship as well as fight a battle out in space. And I think that they did such a good job of making you feel like you're fighting on both sides of the forces. And this was just the demo. He described it. What did he say? He used the Star Trek test that nobody was supposed to be able to pass. He used that name, but he had switched it up a little bit because basically it was the impossible to fail, demonstration, which was, it's wonderful to have a impossible fail demonstration, but it also just shows this game has so much more to offer. If that was just the demo, that was just like the lowest, like we're not using all the mechanics, we're not having to strategize and think, how can I best utilize my turn? And there was even a magical transformation. And I'm hoping that you can see that soon. We were playing with Drew from What's Games, and he got to be the one to welcome to boredom. Yes, and he got to be the one to magically transform. And we got a video of him explaining how miraculous his transformation was. It's a game that if you are like us and you like to add spice to your gameplay experience, there's a lot of room and a lot of opportunity to add that spice.
So we talked a lot about our playtesting, which obviously we should because that was a big part of what we were there to do. Demoing X Seekers of Fortune, which we can talk more about in a minute. But the other big piece of being there was we were there on a content creator media badge. And so, Joel, why don't you tell them a little bit about what it was like for us as content creators to be there, what that looked like, what we were doing?
That is a great question because there was a lot that goes into it. I'll say this. When you have that media badge on and you're there knowing that you need to make content, it really breaks the ice for you mentally to be able to just jump in and engage with people. You're kind of, I guess the way that I took it was we walked the floor when we would go into content creation mode. You would get your gimbal out and we would put on microphones for the iPhone. I even had my mirrorless camera that I would get footage with. I love that thing, by the way. Be on the lookout. I'm hoping Danny picks a couple clips for B-roll out of there because it's like just beautiful footage, great shallow depth of field. But we would kind of wander the floor, and if we saw something that interested us and we stopped for just long enough for the person to talk to us, we would then be like, well, hey, do you have time to do an interview or tell us about your game experience here? If they jumped out and tried to engage with us. And it was just kind of like walking on the floor, seeing so many cool things and knowing we couldn't hit them all. We basically would, find a booth that we were interested in, talk to the person, get them mic'd up, and then we would just do an impromptu interview. And these people are ready to go. They've been pitching their game all weekend. They either were warmed up or well seasoned in their pitches. And all I had to do was, stand next to them and be like, hey, so who are you? Tell us about your game. And they would just go, I had to do very little lifting on most of the time. They were just ready and willing to give us an interview, sell us their game. And yeah, it was wonderful. We really love highlighting that experience. Much like we're going to be here in the near future, and what we are already doing and selling X Secrets of Fortune to people. It's just wonderful to capture those video interviews, capture those teaches, those sells, and being able to put them out for them to hopefully they like the way they came across, and they'll use them on their own channels.
100%. It was very cool, and I think you're right. It almost feels like a responsibility when you're given a media badge to get out there and talk to people, to cover the event. You're there ostensibly to help PAX promote the event to other people, be they attendees, be they exhibitors. And so we took that responsibility very seriously and made sure that we went through and produced some high quality content, and we are trickling that out on our TikTok and Instagram and YouTube account. So if you want to get a sense of what it was like on the expo floor, check us out on TikTok at Megamoth Studios, or on Instagram at X_seekers_of_fortune, or YouTube at Megamoth Studios as well, where
Yeah.
you may be watching this podcast already. And
Maybe wait, let me see if I can do this right. Check us out at one of these places. I was referring, if you're audio only, I'm referring to the banner that we have around us on the YouTube that has all of the names. So if you're audio only, go check out our YouTube so you can see all the places to follow us on social media.
I think it's on your other side though.
You think it's okay? Let me give Will the option. Or there we go. I think we're covered. Either way, that's great. That's
at this point.
It's great audio right there of me just silently gesturing to a graphic that's off screen. No, it was. I think going there as media creators, and that's like the thing I'm almost dreading in some ways. When we go with X Secrets of Fortune and we have a booth, it's probably going to eat into our ability to be out there as media. And I really enjoy being out there as media, being able to roam the floor, just take a sampling of everything. So I'm definitely wanting to find a way for us to be able to hold on to doing that, but also cherish the time that we have right now where we can do that, and we're not just basically chained up to our own booth when X Secrets of Fortune arrives.
I mean, it may be a situation where we're working the booth. Maybe we have some people there to help us, and we're stepping away to do like a live podcast or something like that, if that's an option in the future. What booth was your favorite booth that we visited?
Oh,
if we didn't visit it, but that you saw, like, purely from like eye candy standpoint, not necessarily from a game or personality standpoint.
I think if we're talking like eye candy standpoint, I think what my answer is going to be. And the booth I'm most inspired by for us making our own X Secrets of Fortune booth, and this isn't minimum viable product. This is probably like us, like year 3 or 4 building up to this, but it's a Firewatch. Their booth. Tower. Fire Tower. So I get confused because there's a game called Firewatch that has a very similar theme. It's about people looking out for fires in the forest of the Pacific Northwest, and
you always have had an affinity for arson, right? So I mean, this would
a little bit. Yeah, I definitely went through a phase where I just liked lighting matches to watch them burn. That sort of thing. Okay. I might have had to put out a few fires in my time. But their booth was amazing. They kind of used black to sort of darken everything, the way that you would on a film set. You put black up and that kind of sucks up all the light. So then they were able to put out all these, what are they called? Like, I think they're technically lanterns, paper lanterns, all up in their, in the faux roof that they created for their booth. And so it just had a very eye-catching, it stood out because it was almost created a dark void with points of light. And I think they were very wise in how they handled that. And I know that I want to be able to control our space just as much as they controlled theirs. I think it'll bring in a lot of people.
For me, I went a different route. It wasn't so much the theatrics of the booth setup, although I do agree with you, Fire Tower looked amazing. I was drawn in the most, I think, by Sleeping Giant Games' House of Hamel, The black and white line art for that was so inspiring. I'm not a TTRPG player as of yet, so generally speaking, it would take a lot for me to get pulled into a 5e booth. But the art was so phenomenal, the product's so unique, that I was really just mesmerized by their product. And I spent a lot of time staring at it, and I'm very, very, very keen to try to find a way to work with that artist on
Hmm.
some of our future
I
projects.
believe it
So,
was, if I remember correctly, the artist was the daughter of the person who created the world and the lore, who created
that
like
is
all the
correct.
game components. Her art was amazing, very striking. One of the things, I mean, if you're listening to this now, this video is already posted on uh, on our TikTok, on the Megamoth Studios TikTok, so you can go and check it out. One of the things that I thought was like, oh, I never thought about it like that, is they use these wonderful decal magnet, decal magnets in order to stick the for the tokens that would be like the monster on the map. And
Hmm.
often we use miniatures in TTRPGs. It's often miniatures that you put down. But one of the things I realized was miniatures are great when you can pick them up and examine them from all different angles. That's wonderful. But sometimes when they're on the map and you're sitting, 5 feet, looking down at it, it's just a mess of, it just sort of like flattens out and sort of a mess of details. This system with that black and white line art really made it to where when you're sitting down and playing, you can still see just the threat that is the large skeleton looming over you, or the dragon that's flying towards your party. That it really reads very well at a distance, and I think that creates, for, in my opinion, I think that is the product. That is their killer product. They should be selling that. Even if you're not buying the full set, which it was a luxury, we would say like a premium luxurious product for like seasoned, TTRPG players who really want to invest in the TTRPG. Even if you don't buy the whole set, I think they should sell those decal magnetized creature tokens to the public, because that was something I think that would really spice up any Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
I'm probably going to say her name wrong, but I think the illustrator here is named Bryn Hage. And if you want to see the art that we're talking about, I highly recommend going to www.sleepinggiantgaming.com. Again, that's www.sleepinggiantgaming.com. And I believe they are also on Instagram at Sleeping Giant Gaming. So all one word, Sleeping Giant Gaming. Very visual and a feast for the eyes. Highly recommend checking them out. They were some of my favorite products that we saw available, that I learned about there.
Ever dreamed of embarking on legendary quest, unlocking hidden secrets, and discovering untold riches? Dive into the world of X Seekers of Fortune. It's the game that's soon to be taking the internet by storm. Sign up today at xseekersoffortune.com and start your journey to greatness. Remember, fortune favors the bold. See you there.
Anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap up our discussion? I know that we barely scratched the surface here.
Yeah, I think okay. I think there's two more things I want to try to get into, but the first one that's most important is I want to also shout out to, was it Claromancy?
Claromancy, yes, our friends at Claromancy.
Claromancy. They had another wonderful booth, great props, great presence, and their game is so clever to be selling at a convention, because it's essentially the game for the convention, for a convention, because it's a game that you wear around your neck on a lanyard. It's basically like I would guess you would say maybe a deck building combat game, but you wear pendants
Pins,
on a
yep.
like a necklace, huh?
Yep,
Yeah,
pins
on a
on your
necklace.
lanyard.
Yeah, on your lanyard, and it gives you access. It gives you characters that you can fight somebody else wearing the same, their own version of the game. So it's like you're walking around with a magic deck, but you don't have to sit down. You don't have to take up table space. You just have it right there, ready to go. Definitely check them out. And they were very wonderful to us. They became quick friends. I'm looking forward to seeing them at the next convention, and hopefully before then. They were all wonderful. It was I know it was Dennis, Koala, Tim was helping out the
Well,
booth as well. Wait, did I say it right? Not Koala,
no.
Koala. Was it Koala? I know he's from down the Outback. Maybe I got it mixed up. Kalani.
Kalali.
Kalani.
Kalani. There you go. Kalali.
I'm sure he gets it all the time.
Just shoehorning a koala bear in.
Yeah.
You're like, you're from Australia. Your name's probably Koali. Kalani, I'm so sorry, brother. But
Yeah.
trust me, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, he called Trevor Travis earlier in the episode, and
Yeah, I think I called Chris Ben to his face while we were about to demo X Seekers of Fortune to him. The names, the amount of names that you get just jumbles so quickly in your head. Like we definitely have to upgrade or level up our name retention game, because the last thing I want to call out is all the wonderful opportunities we have to meet new people, especially through our connections with the wonderful service that is Launch Boom. Launch Boom is amazing. I just want to say that first and foremost. And they had a get together, a post convention dinner and drinks, open bar. Definitely always appreciated at weddings and conventions. And we just got to meet all these folks who had also signed up for the Launch Boom program and get to know them. And these are folks who are a lot of them are game designers, or they have like what would you say, things for games, like I think one of them was trying to sell a dice box for your Dungeons and Dragons dice that was looked like a donut, and really was a tasty looking donut.
Dodeca Donut.
Dodeca Donut.
They are pre-Kickstarter, but I do believe they are for sale. So look up Dodeca Donut on TikTok. I'm not going to endeavor to spell that, but
no. You'll find it.
You can find them on our the list of accounts we're following on TikTok, or the list of accounts following us. They should be both places.
Yeah, but basically, one thing that we definitely, we sometimes missed our lunch, but with these post-convention events each night, we definitely got our dinner.
That is true. Lots and lots of scrumptious food served. So yeah, shout out to our friends at Launch Booms, in particular Maria and Spencer, for taking the time. And also to Nicole at Kickstarter for inviting us to that fabulous pizza party on Saturday night, and for playtesting X Seekers of Fortune. That meant a lot. And then, I mean, we could go on and on with a list of people that we probably should be shouting out here, and just saying, hey, how much we enjoyed having you around and hanging out and getting to know you this weekend. We got to meet John at Terrible Games face to face for the first time. We got to meet Ben from AFEC.
Yeah, John, previous guests on the podcast, John was there. The Terrible Games booth was awesome. They have Token Terrors and, I'm going to say it wrong again, probably Valka. Why do anyways, Valka. And that was a really good booth setup as well. He had the games basically out and ready to be shown off. And John was, really fast to pick up X Seekers of Fortune as well. I think his Magic the Gathering background, as we always say, Magic the Gathering players just take to X so quickly. And he got a playtest of it in with Ben late one night. We went so late one night, the first night, that the security guards actually had to come by and ask us to leave the building because they were well past closed. And they came up we were probably there 45 minutes after the building had closed, and we had tucked ourselves so tightly away that they were surprised to see us.
Yeah, and I will never forgive them for disrupting my first ever Token Terrors match, because I was super into it. I was playing against Ben from AFEC, and we did not get a chance to finish it, but it was fantastic. We also got to see Sam Orangerful, and that was fantastic. We got to enjoy some Wild Bills with her. Got to meet Gabe from Games with Gabe. We got to meet Drew from Welcome to Boredom and Watts Gaming. We got to meet Sarah from True Joy and her husband Jeremy. Board Gaming Mama, Heather, who just passed 30,000 followers.
Congratulations, Heather.
TikTok. Congratulations, Heather. That's a big milestone. We met Kia for the first time. We met Alex from Salty Scurvy Sea Dogs, his wife Ellie. Just so many people. I can't even begin to list them all. And super grateful to all of them. Josh. I think
you're going for it. You're going for the whole list. I think you did 100% run right there.
Yeah, I don't think so. But that was close to it, and super grateful to all of them.
All those people that we met, Danny, and that's why if you're a game designer, if you're a game maker, you want to make to play games, you want to design games, and you want people to play your games. That's why you go to these conventions. And I don't think PAX Unplugged needs me to plug them any more than they already are. In fact, if anything, they might be starting to turn people away in the next few years with how dense the attendance is. But if you're watching this podcast because you're into game design, you have to go to these conventions. There's plenty around the country, plenty of times of the year, but this is obviously where the magic happens, and it was quite a magical experience for me. Breaking news, Fortune Seekers. X Seekers of Fortune now has its pre-launch page live on Kickstarter. Click the link in the description below so you can be one of the first people to support X Seekers of Fortune. Also, there's probably going to be some bonuses if you support within the first 24 hours, so be on the lookout for those announcements coming soon. Thank you so much, Fortune Seekers. Please support the game, support the show by liking this episode and subscribing to our podcast. And you know what? Support each other. Back to the show. Well, that was our conversation about what we did at PAX Unplugged, Danny and I. But definitely be expecting to hear more about our journey out there. And as always, if you want to follow us, the best way to do that is at TikTok, Mega Moth Studios, or you can follow us here on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button and ring that dang bell so you can get so that you can get this podcast when it is hot and fresh, right out of the oven. But with that, all I have left to say is you must start somewhere, so why not here? Thank y'all so much for watching. Bye.
Clearly, I'm not getting this week, so.
Oh. Theme music by James Hilden, produced and edited by William Wymore.
Name pronunciations by Joel A. Watts. Or should I say, Jaul Al-Wate.